Husband betrays pregnant wife for mistress. She leaves and marries a millionaire, leaving him in regret. In the opulent streets of Manhattan, where fortunes are flaunted and reputations built or shattered by a single rumor, a dark secret would soon erupt into a massive scandal. Tristan Harrington, a charismatic millionaire property tycoon, was the envy of high society. With his elegant wife, Camilla Harrington, pregnant with their first child, he appeared to have it all. But beneath the surface of glitzy parties and ritzy penthouse soirées, Tristan's forbidden desires lured him into a damning affair. When Camilla discovered the betrayal, she did more than simply walk away. She took her shattered heart and rebuilt an empire by marrying a billionaire who changed her life forever. Tristan Harrington was born into privilege as the eldest son of Charles Harrington, a real estate titan who had single-handedly erected some of the most prestigious buildings across New York City. While Charles had expanded his empire with ruthless savvy, Tristan spent his youth in boarding schools, groomed to be the heir to this glittering legacy. By his mid-20s, Tristan had charmed the business world, turning heads with his flamboyant lifestyle and a knack for sealing high-stakes deals. Everyone expected him to continue the Harrington tradition and become an even bigger success. When Tristan first laid eyes on Camilla Donovan at a charity fundraiser, he was instantly captivated. Camilla was the daughter of a small bookstore owner in Brooklyn, and she'd climbed the social ladder through sheer grit and talent. She worked as a communications manager for a non-profit focused on literacy, and the sincerity of her passion drew Tristan like a magnet. While she was nowhere near the wealth bracket that Tristan inhabited, it was precisely her warmth and modest upbringing that intrigued him. Their romance was a whirlwind: lavish yacht parties, diamond bracelets, spontaneous trips to Europe. Tristan spared no expense in courting Camilla. She, in turn, introduced him to a world beyond the upper echelons. She showed him the beauty of community, the importance of genuine friendships, and the quiet joy of sharing meaningful conversations that had nothing to do with profits or venture capital. Their wedding became the talk of Manhattan's elite circles. Held at the Harrington estate in the Hamptons, it was a testament to Tristan's flamboyance and Camilla's refined taste. The press described it as a marriage of modern royalty, forging two distinct backgrounds into one fascinating union. Over the next year, they successfully navigated countless social galas and philanthropic events. Their marriage was held up as a fairy tale, an example that bridging class differences was not only possible, but could blossom into genuine happiness. But sometimes, illusions of perfection only mask the fissures. Tristan's hunger for admiration never abated. Despite having a devoted wife, he found himself constantly craving new excitement. His thirst for being the center of attention, once centered on corporate achievements and legitimate applause, began shifting into a more insidious form, chasing personal thrills in questionable territory. Camilla, meanwhile, poured herself into supporting Tristan. As he expanded Harrington Properties with ambitious projects, she often accompanied him as the poised, gracious hostess who could charm potential investors into loosening their purse strings. He'd publicly praise her as the secret weapon behind his success. Yet, behind Camilla's radiant smile, she sometimes felt uneasy. She sensed Tristan's restlessness, a tiny dark seed sprouting within him, even if she couldn't quite articulate what it might become. Everything changed when Camilla discovered she was pregnant, about 2 years into their marriage. She was beyond ecstatic, seeing it as a chance for deeper familial unity. Though Tristan smiled and declared he was overjoyed, a part of him wavered. Could he handle the responsibility of fatherhood? He'd built his empire on risk, independence, and flamboyance. A child felt like an anchor, something that might ground him to a role he wasn't sure he was ready for. Those doubts festered, and in the glitzy, champagne-soaked corners of high society, temptation lurked. beckoning him to seek excitement far away from his pregnant wife. Little did Tristan know that this temptation would not only derail his marriage, but cost him the one thing he never expected to lose: Camilla's unwavering faith in him. Camilla's pregnancy was a dream come true for her. She envisioned cozy nights with Tristan, reading baby books and discussing names. She decorated a spare bedroom in their penthouse, turning it into a whimsical nursery with a mural of hot air balloons and cotton candy clouds. Friends and family, from her side as well as his, showered them with gifts, yet Tristan became more elusive. He claimed to be engulfed in an upcoming mega project, the Harrington Crown, a majestic skyscraper slated to redefine New York's skyline. Late-night business meetings, extended travel to lure foreign investors, and urgent cocktail gatherings became routine. Camilla, initially understanding, began to feel his absence acutely. She found herself alone in their enormous penthouse at 2 a.m., listening to the echo of her own footsteps, wondering if she was destined to raise their child half on her own. One evening, after Tristan missed yet another prenatal appointment, Camilla confronted him. They sat at the grand dining table, an elaborate meal going cold as tension filled the air. "You promised you'd show up," she said, her voice quivering with sadness. "I waited there, hearing other moms talk about their supportive partners. I had to sit alone." Tristan sighed, loosening his tie. "I told you, an emergency popped up. Harrington Crown is at a critical juncture." She tried to keep her composure, though tears brimmed in her eyes. "Tristan, you said we'd be partners in this. I'm halfway through the pregnancy, and you've barely come to any of my doctor visits. I need you." He reached for her hand, giving it a quick squeeze. "I'm sorry," he murmured. "The expansion is intense. I'll make it up to you, I promise." Camilla nodded, wanting so desperately to believe him, but deep inside, worry gnawed at her. She didn't have a clue that work was only part of the story. The rest of it began to unfold in secret spaces that Tristan frequented, a members-only lounge, hush hotel suites, and late-night private parties. And at the center of this new swirl of thrill-seeking was Chloe Westwood, a striking, sophisticated consultant hired to streamline his upcoming tower's design concept. Chloe was everything Camilla wasn't: flamboyant, provocative, and with a taste for danger. She'd already made a name for herself in the art scene, rumored to be intimately involved with more than one wealthy patron. When Tristan crossed paths with her, sparks ignited. Perhaps it was her bold charm, or her refusal to cower before his status. Perhaps it was the way she teased him about Camilla's girl-next-door vibe, pushing him to explore an edgier, less restricted self. Regardless, Tristan found himself gravitating toward Chloe's orbit. At first, it was business dinners discussing architectural themes for Harrington Crown, but her magnetism made him linger, stepping into a moral grey zone. Camilla sensed a shift in Tristan's mannerisms. He grew more guarded with his phone, texting after midnight, smiling at messages he never showed her. He began wearing a new brand of cologne, strong, uncharacteristically spicy. If she asked about it, he just shrugged. She felt a tension that even her best friend, Melanie Park, noticed at a casual lunch. "Honey," Melanie said gently, "you deserve a partner who's present, especially now." Camilla forced a brittle smile. "It's just a busy period for him. It'll get better." But a voice inside her wasn't so sure. She was right to be suspicious. The illusions of Tristan's perfect life were unraveling, one clandestine encounter at a time. Tristan's affair with Chloe Westwood escalated dangerously fast. Their flirtations turned into passionate trysts in five-star hotel suites. She would whisper sweet deceptions into his ear, telling him how dull and predictable the world of proper wives and stable marriages could be. Tristan, fueled by adrenaline, reciprocated with lavish gifts, A diamond bracelet here, a sleek sports car there. Chloe never asked for them outright, but her eyes gleamed whenever he offered, encouraging him to keep pushing boundaries. All the while, Camilla grew lonelier, her pregnancy progressing without the emotional support she'd anticipated. She started noticing contradictions in Tristan's schedule. On nights he claimed to be at the Harrington Crown site, she would find pictures on social media of him at an exclusive lounge, glass in hand, standing beside a woman with glossy hair. Faces were often obscured by strategic angles or group shots, but it was enough to stoke her worst fears. One afternoon, as she was organizing Tristan's closet, she discovered a hotel keycard in the pocket of one of his jackets. She felt her heart pound. He had specifically told her the previous night he'd worked until midnight at the construction office. Why then a key to the Fairmont Regency? A wave of nausea overcame her, and it wasn't just from pregnancy hormones. Camilla confronted Tristan that evening. They were in their sunlit living room with panoramic views of Manhattan's skyline, the same place they once curled up, dreaming about their family's future. She handed him the key card, her eyes full of betrayal. "What is this?" she asked, voice trembling. Tristan froze for a second, then forced a casual laugh. "Camilla, you're not suggesting." She cut him off. "Don't insult me by denying it. I know you weren't at the site that night. I've seen pictures of you with some woman, your arms around her, laughing. You've been lying." His face paled. "I can explain. I'm listening." And so Tristan spun a half-truth. He claimed that Chloe was a business associate from overseas, that he needed to wine and dine her to secure investment for Harrington Crown, and that he was sorry for the deception. The hotel suite was a courtesy for an important guest, he insisted, and we might have had a few drinks, but it was all business. "I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to worry." Camilla stared into his eyes, tears streaming silently. She yearned to believe him, but the intangible sense of betrayal gnawed at her. Yet, deep down, her love for him was still strong. She told herself that as long as he denied a physical affair, maybe she could forgive. She placed the key card on the table, exhaled shakily, and turned to her husband. "If there's more to it," she whispered, "be honest, Tristan. I'm pregnant with your child. Don't you think I deserve the truth?" He swallowed hard. "I swear that's all. I'm sorry for misleading you." Camilla nodded, though her intuition screamed otherwise. From that day on, she lived in a realm of suspicion, scanning credit card statements, checking Tristan's phone logs. The strain on her emotional well-being was immense. At prenatal appointments, her obstetrician expressed concern about her elevated blood pressure. Stress was taking its toll. Only one person recognized the danger for what it was, Melanie Park. She discovered, through a mutual acquaintance, that Chloe Westwood wasn't some random investor. She was a well-known presence in certain circles, rumored to be a muse for wealthy men. Concerned, Melanie confided in Camilla. "Please, Camilla, you have to protect yourself. Chloe is not who Tristan claims she is." A cold wave of dread enveloped Camilla. She realized that her illusions were unraveling. Her entire marriage might be built on a crumbling foundation. But she had no idea just how destructive Tristan's betrayal would soon become. Despite Camilla's suspicions, Tristan and Chloe carried on their affair with reckless abandon. Late-night rendezvous became frequent. Tristan's arrogance grew, fueled by the thrill of leading a double life without being caught, at least not conclusively. The Harrington Crown project served as a convenient cover, letting him justify late meetings and business trips. One fateful Saturday, Tristan and Chloe attended a glitzy charity ball at the historical Metropolitan Grande Hotel. Typically, Camilla would have joined him at such social events. But with her third trimester well underway, Tristan easily convinced her to rest at home. Ironically, it was a ball to benefit pregnant mothers in need, hosted by a philanthropic group of Manhattan's upper crust. The irony only intensified the scandal. Chloe arrived draped in an eye-catching silk gown, her arm hooked around Tristan's. They danced among the city's elite, champagne glasses in hand, while gossiping tongues wagged. Their closeness was apparent to many. A few guests even recognized Chloe as Tristan's rumored mistress, but nobody dared cause a scene. At around midnight, they slipped out to a private suite reserved for the event's VIP donors. In the seclusion of that lavish room, Chloe teased Tristan about his domestic obligations. He responded by promising that once the baby was born, he'd figure out a way to ensure Camilla was taken care of, and he'd be free to chase bigger adventures with Chloe. A staff photographer, assigned to take pictures of VIPs for promotional material, inadvertently wandered into the suite. The shutter clicked, capturing an intimate moment between Tristan and Chloe, a stolen kiss, with Tristan's hand placed possessively on her waist. Though the photographer apologized and retreated, the damage was done. A damning photo now existed, with the Harrington heir locked in an undeniable embrace with a mysterious woman who wasn't his wife. By dawn, the photograph had made its way into the phone of a junior staffer who forwarded it to a friend at a local gossip blog. Within 24 hours, that blog posted the shot with an explosive headline: Harrington heir cozy with unknown beauty at charity ball wears his pregnant wife. Camilla woke up that Sunday morning to an onslaught of texts and calls, friends, acquaintances, even her hairstylist. Her heart hammered as she clicked the link to the article, her breathing shallow as the photo loaded. There was Tristan, her Tristan, gazing adoringly into another woman's eyes. She felt something inside her shatter, an irreparable crack that roiled into heartbreak and fury. When Tristan finally returned to the penthouse, disheveled and reeking of perfume, Camilla stood in the living room, phone in hand. She didn't shout or weep. She simply showed him the photograph, tears glistening in her eyes. "You said it was just business," she whispered. "Look me in the eye and tell me that's true." He opened his mouth, struggling for excuses, but no words came. How could he spin that photograph into a harmless story? In an instant, Camilla's illusions dissolved. She realized she'd been deceiving herself, trying to preserve a marriage that Tristan had already discarded for lust and ego. She turned away from him, pressing a hand to her pregnant belly. Their baby was due in 2 months, and yet the father had chosen someone else. "I'm done," she said, barely above a whisper. "I can't do this anymore." Tristan reached for her arm, panic swelling in his eyes. "Wait, Camilla, let's talk." She yanked her arm free. "You've done enough talking. Now it's my turn to act." And so, the once idyllic marriage of Tristan and Camilla Harrington lay in ruins, courtesy a single photograph that laid bare the ugly truth. Tristan had betrayed his pregnant wife without remorse. Camilla departed from the penthouse that evening, unwilling to remain under the same roof as the man who'd broken her heart so callously. Melanie Park arrived in a whirlwind of protective energy, helping Camilla pack a few essentials into a suitcase. Her face was stony as she glared at Tristan, who hovered near the doorway, attempting half-hearted apologies. "We'll pick up the rest of her things another time," Melanie snapped. "She needs peace, not your lies." Camilla barely spoke, her spirit bruised into numbness. She took up temporary refuge in Melanie's apartment, a cozy loft in Midtown. There she curled on a sofa bed, tears streaming silently as she mourned the loss of her marriage. Every time she felt a gentle kick from her unborn child, her heartbreak magnified. This baby deserved a stable, loving father, yet Tristan had chosen to betray them both. The next day, the scandal ballooned. Gossip columns churned out rumors of Tristan's affair, painting him as a heartless philanderer. Harrington Properties' stock value wobbled, threatened by the negative publicity. Charles Harrington called an emergency meeting, furious that his son's irresponsibility jeopardized the family empire. Tristan, shoulders slumped, endured his father's tirade in silence. You had it all, a devoted wife, an heir on the way, and you threw it away for some fling? Do you realize how badly you've disgraced our name? Charles thundered, pacing his executive suite. You fix this, Tristan, or you'll find yourself cut off from more than just your inheritance. But Tristan's predicament was beyond a simple fix. Chloe Westwood had no interest in damage control. She flaunted their liaison openly, relishing the notoriety. She teased Tristan in texts about how the city's tabloids were obsessed with them, subtly pushing him to legitimize their relationship. Tristan vacillated between the thrill of her attention and the gnawing regret over losing Camilla. Meanwhile, Camilla discreetly hired a formidable divorce attorney, Patricia Walters, known for her fierce representation of scorned spouses. Patricia reviewed the photographic evidence and Tristan's financial records, preparing to secure a settlement that would ensure Camilla's unborn child would never want for anything. Camilla tried to emotionally steel herself for the legal battles ahead, but her heart still ached with love and betrayal, an impossible blend. In a moment of desperation, Tristan attempted to reconcile. He visited Melanie's apartment, begging for a chance to talk. With reluctance, Camilla met him in the building's lobby. She was visibly pregnant, wearing a loose-fitting sundress that brushed against her belly. The hollowness in her eyes nearly broke Tristan's composure. "Camilla," he began softly, "I messed up. I was seduced by excitement, by Chloe's." She put up a hand to stop him, tears threatening to spill again. "Stop. You don't need to justify your affair. You made your choice, Tristan. And now I've made mine." His eyes flickered with panic. "I want to be part of our child's life." Camilla studied him, holding back sobs. "Our child deserves a stable environment. I don't trust you to provide that." She turned away, and Tristan watched her walk back to the elevator. As the doors closed, a sense of finality swept over him. He realized he might have lost something far more precious than wealth or reputation. But it was too late to undo the damage. 2 weeks later, Camilla's divorce papers were formally served to Tristan. As the news circulated, Harrington Properties faced a renewed wave of negative publicity. Charles Harrington swiftly restructured the company's leadership, reducing Tristan's responsibilities to mitigate further damage. Chloe, brazenly unbothered, told the media she was thrilled Tristan was finally free, fully expecting to step into Camilla's role in the Harrington empire. But Tristan, despite all his arrogance, found himself increasingly isolated. His father and the board of directors frowned on the scandal. Investors were leery, and the proud Harrington name was subject to nasty rumors at every country club. Even Chloe's presence began to grate on him, her demands, her flamboyant thirst for fame. Late at night, he'd lie awake in his penthouse, thinking of the quiet warmth Camilla once provided. Camilla, on the other hand, took refuge in her career ambitions, pivoting from her communications job at the non-profit to forming her own PR consultancy. Fueled by heartbreak, she poured her energy into drafting campaigns for philanthropic events, ironically rivaling the scale of anything Tristan might sponsor. Meanwhile, her belly continued to grow. She found solace in the unwavering support of Melanie, who insisted on turning a spare room into a makeshift nursery. In the final weeks before her due date, Camilla received an unexpected invitation to a high-profile philanthropic gala at the Metropolitan Museum. Typically, she would have avoided such events to minimize stress. But her curiosity was piqued when she discovered that the evening would feature an awards ceremony for philanthropic entrepreneurs, and she was being honored for her recent achievements in charity marketing. Despite her reluctance, Camilla decided to attend, a decision that would prove fateful. She purchased a graceful black maternity gown that accentuated her growing bump, stepping into the museum's grand marble foyer with composure. The occasional hush fell around her. Some recognized her as the pregnant ex-wife of Tristan Harrington, anticipating a spectacle if he also arrived. But Tristan wasn't there. Instead, the evening introduced Camilla to Alexander Roth, a distinguished billionaire investor known for his sharp mind and low-key persona. Unlike Tristan's flamboyance, Alexander was subdued, almost shy. Rumor had it he'd come from humble origins, building an empire in biotech and sustainable energy. Alexander approached Camilla after her acceptance speech, quietly praising her eloquence and dedication to social causes. Their conversation flowed naturally. He asked about her upcoming motherhood, and she reciprocated with questions about his philanthropic ventures. She felt a warmth emanate from him, a sincerity reminiscent of what she once believed Tristan possessed. Over the following weeks, Alexander sent thoughtful messages, inquiring about her health. They developed a gentle friendship, one unburdened by the shadow of her previous marriage. For the first time in months, Camilla felt seen as a person, not just a pregnant woman carrying scandalous baggage. Meanwhile, Chloe and Tristan's fling began to fray. As the reality of Tristan's losses both personally and professionally sank in, he grew irritable, no longer doting on Chloe's every whim. She, in turn, fumed at his broodiness, complaining that he was no fun once the excitement of tabloid headlines died down. Their nights out turned into petty squabbles. Tristan's thoughts kept drifting back to Camilla, wondering how she was faring in the final weeks of her pregnancy. But every attempt to reach her was rebuffed by her lawyer, Patricia Walters, who made it clear all contact regarding the child will go through legal channels. And so, two parallel journeys emerged, Camilla forging a new path, supported by an unlikely friend in billionaire Alexander Roth, and Tristan wrestling with regret, his illusions of love with Chloe cracking under the weight of reality. Late one night, as thunder rumbled through the Manhattan skyline, Camilla woke to intense labor pains. Melanie scrambled to get her to the hospital, weaving through rain-slicked streets. Between contractions, Camilla clenched Melanie's hand, tears of anxiety and excitement mingling with the anguish. She was about to meet her baby. By the time they reached the labor ward, her contractions were mere minutes apart. Nurses rushed her into a private delivery room. The next few hours blurred into a haze of pain, breathing exercises and desperate prayers. Melanie never left her side, offering cups of ice chips and an unwavering hand to squeeze. Finally, at dawn's first light, Camilla's newborn daughter, Aurelia Donovan, entered the world with a piercing cry. Overcome with emotion, Camilla cradled Aurelia to her chest. She marveled at the tiny fingers, the delicate features. In that moment, her heartbreak over Tristan receded, replaced by a tidal wave of maternal love. News of the birth spread quickly through social media and society's grapevine. Many wondered if Tristan would rush to the hospital to claim paternal rights. To Camilla's surprise, it was Alexander Roth who appeared, discreetly bringing her a bouquet of lavender and offering to cover any hospital expenses. He stayed in the waiting area, not wanting to intrude, yet near enough should she need anything. Tristan only learned of his daughter's arrival the following morning when Charles Harrington burst into his penthouse, brandishing an article, "Camilla Harrington, now Donovan welcomes baby girl." "You have a child," Charles growled, "and you're not even by her side?" Tristan felt a bolt of panic. He'd lost track of Camilla's final weeks. He hurriedly tried contacting Camilla, but she never picked up. He tried calling Melanie, but she blocked him. Desperate, he went to the hospital, only to find Camilla had checked out hours earlier. In a last-ditch effort, Tristan confronted Camilla's divorce attorney, Patricia Walters. She informed him of the legal steps required, If he wanted custody or visitation paternity tests, a structured plan, the harsh truth sank in. Camilla wanted no personal contact with him. And Tristan, for the first time, realized the depth of the pain he'd caused. Camilla, safe in Melanie's apartment with baby Aurelia, found her life upended by newborn challenges, late-night feedings, constant diaper changes, the swirl of hormones that left her emotionally raw. Yet she took solace in her daughter's sleepy smiles, her tiny gurgles. Alexander Roth remained a steadfast presence, checking on her daily, sending gourmet food deliveries so she wouldn't have to cook. He even arranged a nanny on standby for emergencies. At first, Camilla hesitated to accept too much help from a man she barely knew. But Alexander seemed genuinely kind, never overstepping. Eventually, after a month of patience, Alexander asked if she'd allow him to meet Aurelia. With Melanie's encouragement, Camilla agreed. She was surprised by how naturally he held the baby, his expression marveling as though Aurelia was the most precious treasure. The contrast with Tristan's absence was stark, leaving Camilla with a swirl of gratitude and sorrow. In a quiet moment, Alexander looked at Camilla, sincerity shining in his dark eyes. "If you ever need anything at all, I'm here for you too. No strings attached." Camilla nodded, tears in her eyes. "Thank you. It means more than you know." With each passing day, Tristan's life spiraled further from the fairy tale he'd once lived. In losing Camilla, he realized that everything he valued, stability, genuine connection, even the prospect of fatherhood, had vanished because of his own folly. Harrington Properties, too, demanded more of him than he could manage. Investors grew jittery, uncertain if a man mired in scandal could guide them to success. His relationship with Chloe deteriorated. The superficial glamour that once enthralled him no longer soothed his conscience. When she pressured him to take her on an extravagant European vacation, he snapped, accusing her of being a parasite. Furious, she retaliated with her own brand of cruelty, mocking him for pining after his boring wife and wailing brat. Eventually, Tristan kicked Chloe out of his penthouse, severing ties. She shrugged, unscathed, already moving on to another wealthy target. Tristan was left alone, haunted by the photo of Camilla from their wedding day, a memory of pure, unblemished joy. Desperate, he decided to fight for a role in Aurelia's life. He engaged a new legal team who assured him he had paternal rights. Yet each step of the process forced him to confront Camilla's unwavering stance. She refused to let Aurelia be a pawn in any manipulative game. If Tristan truly wanted to be a father, he'd have to prove it over time and abide by strict visitation rules, initially supervised by a family liaison. Weeks turned to months. Tristan finally arranged a supervised visitation with Aurelia in a neutral setting, a child-friendly counseling center. Holding his daughter for the first time, he felt an overwhelming surge of love and regret. Aurelia stared at him with wide eyes, her sweet innocence oblivious to the turmoil of her parents' lives. Tristan fought tears, realizing the magnitude of all he'd squandered. After the allotted hour, he returned Aurelia to the liaison. As he exited, he spotted Camilla standing in the corridor. She looked more radiant than ever, motherhood softening her features, but there was a quiet resolve in her eyes he didn't recognize. Instead of approaching, he hung back, shame pressing heavily on him. He suspected she might have someone new in her life. Rumors pointed to a certain billionaire's involvement, but he had no moral high ground to question her choices. Back in his lonely penthouse, Tristan stared at the city lights. He used to think the bright skyline was a symbol of conquest. Now it felt like a hollow monument to his failure. His father's last words echoed in his mind, "You fix this or lose everything." Tristan now knew some losses were irreparable, no matter how desperately one tried to rewrite the past. By the time Aurelia turned 6 months old, Camilla had settled into a new rhythm. She managed her PR consultancy from home, balancing phone calls and client meetings with feedings and lullabies. Melanie remained her confidant, but another figure had quietly become indispensable in her life: Alexander Roth. What began as a gentle friendship evolved into something deeper. Alexander was cautious about expressing his feelings, wary of taking advantage of Camilla's vulnerability. Yet every dinner he cooked for her, every lullaby he hummed while rocking Aurelia, spoke volumes of his devotion. Gradually, Camilla allowed her guard to lower. She recognized in Alexander a patience and empathy that Tristan had sorely lacked. While Tristan had been consumed by a craving for spotlight, Alexander seemed content to give love quietly and consistently. As they grew closer, Camilla realized she was no longer just healing from Tristan's betrayal, she was discovering a different, steadier kind of love. One crisp winter evening, Alexander invited Camilla to an intimate celebration for the opening of a new wing at a children's hospital he funded. He suggested she bring Aurelia, and Camilla happily obliged. Dressed in an elegant navy gown, Camilla cradled Aurelia in her arms as they toured the facility. Alexander beamed, introducing them to doctors and patients. Watching him help a little boy with a puzzle in the therapy room, Camilla felt a surge of admiration and, yes, affection. They ended the evening at a quiet rooftop terrace, the city's lights shimmering below. Aurelia dozed in her stroller, lulled by the gentle hum of conversation. That's when Alexander turned to Camilla, a note of nervousness in his voice. "I know life has been complicated for you," he said softly, "and I don't want to rush anything. But I need you to know I've never felt this way before. Not just about you, but about Aurelia, about us. I would be honored if we could become a family, officially." Camilla's breath caught. She gazed at him, her heart pounding. She thought of the heartbreak Tristan caused, the toll it took on her trust. Could she risk marriage again? She studied Alexander's eyes, deep, reassuring, promising stability rather than fleeting thrills. Quietly, she replied, "It feels too soon. Are you sure you're ready for everything?" He smiled, gently brushing a stray lock of hair from her face. "I've been ready, but only if it's what you truly want. I will wait until you feel the same." Moved by his sincerity, Camilla leaned in, pressing a tender kiss to his cheek. "I can't imagine a better father figure for Aurelia. Let's see where this leads, carefully, step by step." Though it wasn't a formal acceptance of marriage yet, the path was clear. Camilla had found a man who cherished her and her daughter. Tristan's ghost lingered, but it was fading into the background. News of Camilla's close relationship with Alexander Roth spread quietly through Manhattan's high society. A few saw them dine together at private clubs, exchanging affectionate glances. Rumors swirled that the scorned wife of Tristan Harrington had found not just comfort, but genuine happiness in the arms of a billionaire. The tabloids picked up hints, anonymous snapshots of them leaving the children's hospital or strolling through Central Park with Aurelia. A hush replaced the once loud scandal of Tristan and Chloe's affair. Instead, the new-it couple rumor was Camilla and Alexander, a pairing that piqued curiosity, the humble, conscientious billionaire, with the woman who overcame betrayal to build a new life. Tristan discovered these whispers only too late. At first, he dismissed them as idle speculation. But a chance encounter at a charity function changed everything. There, he overheard an acquaintance cheerfully remark, "Have you seen Camilla lately? She's practically glowing by that Roth fellow's side. Seems she's left her heartbreak behind." Jealousy flared in Tristan like an old wound. He started checking social media for any sign of Camilla. One evening, he stumbled upon a photo posted by a philanthropic group. Alexander, Camilla and baby Aurelia at a fundraiser, all smiling radiantly. The caption read, "Thank you, Mr. Roth and Miss Donovan, for your generous donation to our literacy program." That photo struck Tristan with cruel clarity. Camilla had blossomed without him, forging a life he wasn't part of, with a man more powerful and respected than Tristan ever was. The thought gnawed at him. She was supposed to be his wife, the mother of his child, and now she was moving on. In a desperate attempt, Tristan tried to contact Camilla, but she refused to speak to him outside the structured visitation arrangement for Aurelia. Even then, she sent a nanny or Melanie to supervise. Alexander was sometimes present, an undeniable figure of calm authority. The casual way Aurelia accepted Alexander's presence, tugging at his collar, giggling when he tickled her, shredded Tristan's composure. His own daughter was more comfortable with another man. On one such supervised visit, in the presence of a social worker, Tristan tried to strike up conversation. "Camilla, I think we should talk about co-parenting. Aurelia is my child." She nodded, measured. "We have a schedule in place. If you'd like more time, talk to Patricia Walters." He exhaled, frustration mounting. "We used to share everything. Now, you're shutting me out." Her expression hardened. "You shut me out the night you chose Chloe." She stood, beckoning the nanny to gather Aurelia. Tristan reached for the baby, offering a quick hug. As Aurelia was carried away, Camilla offered Tristan a final glance, stern, unwavering. And with that, she left. Tristan walked out alone, heart heavy. He realized with a bitter sting that the final traces of the life he once knew were slipping away, replaced by a new reality in which Camilla not only thrived, but found love with a man leagues beyond him. A year after Aurelia's birth, Alexander Roth decided enough time had passed for quiet courtship. He organized an elegant yet small gathering at his East Hampton estate, inviting close friends and family. Among them were Camilla, Melanie, and even a few philanthropic associates who had come to admire Camilla's resilience. At sunset, as guests sipped champagne by the rose garden, Alexander took Camilla's hand and led her to a gazebo adorned with fairy lights. Aurelia toddled at their side, giggling as she tried to keep up. Music played softly, courtesy of a string quartet Alexander had hired. In front of this intimate audience, he knelt on one knee, pulling out a simple but stunning ring, a flawless blue sapphire set in platinum. "Camilla Donovan," he said, voice steady but warm. "You've shown me what true kindness and courage are. You've allowed me into Aurelia's life. I want to spend my days showing you both how deeply you're loved. Will you marry me?" Tears welled in Camilla's eyes. She glanced at Aurelia, who clapped her tiny hands, oblivious but joyful. Then she looked at Alexander, the man who'd stood by her through heartbreak, who'd never demanded more than she could give, who treated Aurelia as if she were his own. She murmured yes through a choked sob, and cheers erupted from the small gathering. Melanie rushed forward, enveloping Camilla in a hug, while others applauded. The setting sun's golden light bathed them in a gentle glow, as if nature itself blessed their union. Soon after, Alexander's staff served an impromptu feast, toasting the newly engaged couple. In the flurry of celebrations, Camilla was buoyed by a sense of peace. For the first time in ages, she allowed herself to believe in lasting happiness. But the news of the engagement leaked out swiftly. Society columns praised the union of the philanthropic darling Camilla Donovan with tech and investment giant Alexander Roth. Predictions soared about the inevitable synergy of their charitable endeavors. Some publications drew sensational contrasts to her prior marriage, labeling it the ultimate comeback from heartbreak. Tristan learned of the engagement from an online article. The words, Seared Camilla Donovan, ex-wife of real estate scion Tristan Harrington, is now engaged to billionaire Alexander Roth. The wedding date is rumored to be soon. Accompanying the piece was a photo of Camilla smiling in Alexander's arms, a ring glittering on her finger. Tristan's heart lurched with regret so profound he nearly doubled over. In that moment he understood Camilla was truly gone from his life. And she'd found someone infinitely better, someone who treated her with respect and devotion. A rock of anguish sat in Tristan's chest, each breath reminding him of the life he'd squandered for fleeting pleasures. Despite the finality of Camilla's engagement, Tristan found it impossible to let go. He refused to attend therapy or confide in friends, choosing instead to wallow in a toxic mix of envy and regret. Restless nights haunted him, visions of Camilla once by his side, now in someone else's arms tormenting his thoughts. Driven by desperation, Tristan decided on a radical move. He would approach Camilla directly at her new home, ignoring her requests for distance. He rationalized it as a fatherly concern for Aurelia. In truth, he longed for one last chance to plead with Camilla, to see if a fragment of her old love for him remained. Late one afternoon, he discovered the location of Alexander's townhouse on the Upper East Side. Unsure if Camilla lived there full-time, he arrived unannounced, pressing the intercom. A staff member answered, politely asking his identity. "It's Tristan Harrington. I'm Aurelia's father. I'd like to speak with Miss Donovan." Moments later, the door opened. Camilla stood in the foyer, surprise and displeasure etched into her features. "Why are you here, Tristan?" she asked, her voice cold. "We have legal channels for everything related to Aurelia. This is inappropriate." He stepped forward, eyes flitting around the sumptuous interior. "I had to see you. Alone. Please." She exhaled, nodding at the staff to give them space. In a small sitting room near the entrance, they stood facing each other, the tension palpable. Tristan noticed a framed photo on a side table, Alexander, Camilla, and Aurelia on a beach, all grinning. The sight stung. "What do you want?" Camilla pressed, arms crossed protectively. Tristan inhaled, swallowing the lump in his throat. "I never meant for things to end this way. I made an unforgivable mistake, but we were once in love, Camilla, enough to get married and plan a family. Doesn't that deserve a second chance?" Her face hardened. "We had a second chance. And a third, maybe even a fourth. Each time you chose betrayal. You made your decision." He cast a desperate glance around, as though searching for the right words. Chloe was a mistake, a stupid fling. "I was so blind, but now I see how wrong I was. I can be a better father, a better husband." Camilla laughed bitterly, shaking her head. "Husband? Tristan, I'm engaged to Alexander. We're planning a life together." He winced. "He can never love Aurelia like I do. I'm her real father." She took a sharp breath. "You are her biological father. But a real father is present, loving, respectful. Alexander has been more of a father to her in a year than you've been since the day she was born." For a moment, Tristan's facade cracked, tears welling in his eyes. "Please, just give me a chance to show you I've changed." "I'll do anything. Leave Harrington Properties. Start fresh, whatever you want." Camilla's gaze softened for an instant, pity warring with anger. She recalled their wedding vows, the night he rushed her to the ER for a panic attack early in their marriage. Small acts of kindness. But those memories couldn't overshadow the blatant betrayal. Steadying herself, she replied, "Tristan, the time to prove you were trustworthy came and went. I'm marrying Alexander. He respects me, loves me, cherishes Aurelia. That's enough. Our relationship, ours, ended the day you chose Chloe over our unborn child." In the silent aftermath of her words, Tristan felt his soul splinter. He realized no flowery plea could undo the heartbreak he caused. She turned away, calling for a staff member to escort him out. Before leaving, he asked in a shaky voice, "Can I at least see Aurelia?" Camilla's voice trembled with finality. "Visitation is every other Saturday, as agreed. You'll see her then with a court liaison present." And with that, Tristan left, forced to face the truth. He was no longer Camilla's husband, nor was he Aurelia's primary protector. Another man had taken his place, and deservedly so. The day of Camilla Donovan and Alexander Roth's wedding dawned bright and clear, a crisp breeze ruffling the early autumn leaves in Central Park. Despite their mutual preference for intimacy, the event naturally attracted attention due to Alexander's wealth and Camilla's recent philanthropic successes. Still, they managed to keep the ceremony relatively private, inviting close friends, family, and select members of the philanthropic world they both cherished. Camilla wore an ethereal lace gown designed by a young talent she discovered through her PR work. The dress flowed gently around her figure, every stitch symbolizing her rebirth from heartbreak. At her side, tiny Aurelia served as a flower girl, wearing a dainty white frock and toddling down the makeshift aisle with a basket of petals. Melanie served as the maid of honor, tears of joy dancing in her eyes. Alexander stood at the altar, eyes filled with devotion as he watched Camilla approach. The ceremony was brief but profound. Vows were exchanged, referencing love born from mutual respect and resilience. When they were pronounced husband and wife, the assembled guests erupted in applause. Aurelia giggled as Alexander scooped her up, pressing a soft kiss to her cheek before kissing his new bride. As they walked back down the aisle, hand in hand, confetti fluttered around them. Camilla spotted her parents, brimming with pride, and Melanie beaming with unstoppable tears. In that moment, Camilla felt complete loved, accepted, and free from the shackles of her painful past. Among the crowd, she noticed a face, lurking at the edge, Tristan Harrington. He hadn't been invited, of course, but somehow he'd found a vantage point just beyond the ceremonial area, hidden behind a stand of trees. His eyes glistened with tears, expression raw with regret. Their gazes locked for a second, an unspoken farewell passing between them. Camilla held Alexander's hand tighter, turning her focus to the reception. She didn't owe Tristan any more explanations. She'd survived the darkest betrayal, nurtured her daughter, and found genuine love. That was all that mattered now. Tristan stayed hidden in the shadows, heart constricted, as he witnessed Camilla pledge her life to another man. The memory of how he once held that role burned through him like acid. He realized, too late, that his fleeting indulgences had destroyed any chance at happiness with the woman who once loved him wholeheartedly. The days after Camilla and Alexander's wedding were filled with bliss. They spent a brief honeymoon at a tranquil Tuscan villa, strolling vineyards and savoring quiet dinners under starlit skies. Aurelia accompanied them, doted on by a small team of caretakers, but Camilla and Alexander found plenty of time for themselves too, forging deeper intimacy through shared hopes and dreams. Returning to Manhattan, Camilla felt a renewed sense of purpose. She expanded her PR consultancy, focusing on philanthropic projects that resonated with her and Alexander's joint vision. Under his mentorship, she refined her business model, forging alliances that further boosted her brand. Their philanthropic synergy made them a power couple in the social circuit, but they never lost the personal warmth that bound them. Meanwhile, Tristan trudged through the aftermath of loss. His father, Charles, demanded he shape up or step down from Harrington Properties entirely. The board had lost faith in his leadership since the scandal. Determined not to let his entire legacy collapse, Tristan poured himself into the business, hoping to distract from the emotional void. Yet, no matter how many deals he closed or how many high-end clients he courted, the sense of emptiness persisted. Every other Saturday, Tristan saw Aurelia under court-mandated supervision. At first, the visits were awkward, Aurelia was more comfortable in Alexander's arms than her own father's. But children are naturally forgiving, and as the months rolled by, Aurelia warmed up to Tristan's presence, learning to trust his gentle gestures. Tristan treasured those short hours, even if each departure left him feeling raw. Sometimes Tristan caught glimpses of Camilla at drop-offs or pick-ups. She was always cordial but distant, her wedding ring glinting on her finger. She radiated happiness that Tristan knew he couldn't replicate in her life anymore. One chilly December afternoon, after a brief supervised visit with Aurelia, Tristan lingered in the hallway of the visitation center. His attorney had told him that in a few months he might be allowed unsupervised visits if he demonstrated consistent responsibility. He felt a flicker of hope. Maybe he could at least be a decent father. Camilla passed by, carrying Aurelia on her hip, bundled in a pink coat. Tristan gently reached out, brushing Aurelia's hand in a silent goodbye. Camilla paused, meeting his gaze. "You're doing better with her," she said softly, surprising him with the small compliment. He offered a sad smile. "Thank you. I'm trying." Camilla nodded, hesitating a moment. "She'll benefit from having you in her life, as long as you stay stable." It was the closest thing to approval he'd felt from her in ages. He nodded, gratitude brimming in his eyes. "I will. For her." She turned away then, joining Alexander, who waited outside, carrying a plush baby bag. Tristan watched them drive off, a family unit, bound by love. He recognized that from this point on, he could never reclaim Camilla's heart. The best he could do was atone for his mistakes by being a constant, caring presence in Aurelia's life. 2 years passed. Aurelia grew into a lively toddler, bright-eyed and full of curiosity. She referred to Alexander as Daddy Alex and Tristan as Papa Tristan, a distinction that Camilla carefully explained in ways her young mind could grasp. Both men had a place in her life, though Alexander provided daily paternal care while Tristan contributed intermittent but earnest fatherly love. Camilla flourished in her marriage, her PR firm thriving under the synergy with Alexander's philanthropic investments. She remained grateful for every calm morning spent with Aurelia and every tender night in Alexander's arms, a quiet reminder that heartbreak could blossom into renewal if one dared to move forward. Tristan, though never fully at peace, found stability in dedicating himself to Aurelia's well-being and rebuilding his reputation at Harrington Properties. He toned down his flamboyance, focusing instead on producing quality developments. Each time he spent an afternoon with Aurelia, teaching her to stack blocks, playing hide and seek in a local park, he glimpsed redemption. On Aurelia's 3rd birthday, Camilla and Alexander hosted a garden party, inviting a small circle of close friends. Tristan was welcomed, albeit uneasily, thanks to Camilla's generosity. He arrived with an intricately wrapped gift, a hand-crafted wooden music box. Aurelia squealed with delight, hugging him around the knees. Camilla watched from a short distance, her smile tinged with bittersweet acceptance. In the gentle sunlight, as laughter and children's squeals filled the air, Tristan approached Camilla with cautious steps. "Thank you for letting me be here," he said quietly. "Aurelia looks so happy." Camilla nodded, hugging herself against the breeze. "I want her to have good memories of all the people who love her." They shared a brief, understanding look. The wounds of betrayal had scarred, but life had continued, forging new bonds. Even if their story as husband and wife ended in heartbreak, a different story emerged, one of separated parents coexisting for a child, one of unexpected second chances in the arms of someone else. Tristan slipped away, watching as Camilla returned to Alexander's side. The billionaire wrapped an arm around her waist, leaning in to brush a kiss on her temple, while Aurelia tugged at their hands, babbling about the balloons. It was a portrait of the family Camilla deserved, one Tristan could never replicate. In that final moment, Tristan felt the sting of regret. But overshadowing it was a resolve to keep his promise, to love Aurelia in the limited capacity he had left, to support her from afar and ensure she never doubted. She was cherished. For all his riches, that was the only redemption he could truly afford, and ironically, the only one that mattered. Camilla's journey from betrayed wife to confident partner and mother proves that heartbreak can ignite personal growth, leading to a future far brighter than any shattered past. While Tristan's betrayal left scars that might never fully fade, Camilla refused to let those wounds define her. Through resilience and an unwavering love for her daughter, she discovered genuine happiness in the arms of a billionaire who truly valued her worth. If this emotional tale of betrayal and redemption moved you, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more captivating drama fiction stories. Your support helps us continue exploring the resilience, passion, and triumph that real-life inspired narratives can bring. Thank you for watching, and may Camilla's hard-earned happiness inspire us all to seek our own path to hope and healing.